Hi, everyone. I'm Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot. So, I want to talk about my latest article, and I'm going to bring it on the screen here. And it is on my Substack. It's also been posted to Twitter, X, Rumble, and actually, the article isn't on Rumble, but this is going on Rumble, and also Telegram, and so on and so forth. So, Facebook. I have tons of social media, True Social. So I post my articles everywhere and also on news groups. So if I'm a member of a news group, then I post articles on those as well. So I wanted to make some statements and explain my statements in the article so people might misconstrue certain things, or maybe they have questions and you can send me questions about this type of stuff. So, anyway, let's get started. So, it's called Stand and Fight versus Waiting for Godot. And at one point, very recently, Juan made the following statement or prediction, if you want to call it that, aka JFK Jr. In the sequence of events, he is recognized as being the main authority for the people, not before major events, but during and after. That's how he put it. So that's all about Trump coming forward as commander in chief and the real president of the republic. Now, there's a lot of videos out there, and I've been posting them all over my social media. Whenever I have people sending me links constantly. So I see a lot of the Facebook links. I see a lot of people's posts, individual posts, and some of these are aggregated here on this broadcast, which is quite a good one. And so I encourage you to watch that. And then I just want to draw people's attention to this one, which has this really horrible picture on it. But anyway, it's talking about how General Flynn has actually come forward and said that there's no way that things should be the way they are, that the president in a stroke of the pen or just by giving orders can reallocate funds. They can send in the National Guard. They could even send in the military or aspects of the military, the Army, certain sectors of the Army that are experts at dealing with these kinds of crisis situations, and certainly in other countries, but in our own as well. So I just want to say that, that's great that he's coming forward to say that, and that is absolutely true. Now, we are a country that's invaded. So what you've got is a government that is a New World Order cabal satanic operation. We were invaded when they stole the 2020 election. Our military had the option of taking our country back by force at that point. There were 368 members of Congress. That's written about in the Brunson case, which has been before the Supreme Court for a while now, and basically saying that they didn't stand up to their oaths to the Constitution. They did not do what the head of the intelligence operations, which is, I guess he's called the DNI, who was Radcliffe, had said back after the election that it was influenced and interfered with by the CCP. There were other fraud, accusations, and that Congress should have taken the time, the 10 days that they're required to do to examine the results of all of that. And they did not do so. So therefore, they violated their security oaths and their oath to the Constitution, in my opinion, and they should be fired. And that's what the Brunson case, in essence, says. And there's approximately 368 members, and they are Democrats and some what we call Rhino Republicans as well in that group. So now what we've got are planned attacks on the American people, but this has been going on now for 4 years or more. really more. You could call 9/11 was a planned attack on the people, an inside job. Just what's going on in Israel right now, which is another, inside job, which October 7th, which Netanyahu was fully aware of. And I've written an article, very important article about this. So has Robert Morningstar, another very good investigative journalist and author and investigator, by the way, into the Kennedy assassination and so on. So I just want to draw your attention to that we are in and have been in a similar situation here. Now we're being invaded by the CCP, by the troops at the borders, both borders, north and south. And all of that I dreamed in the past as a precog that it was going to happen. I didn't even believe my own dream. It was so incredible at that time to think about, but it has come to pass. So this is where we're at. Now we're just waiting for the next weather war attack, this time in Tampa, but it could go as far south as Miami, depending on how the storm is shifted. And it's all manipulated. It's all weather wars. And so this is what we're dealing with. And there is a whole list at the bottom of my article of all the weather war patents for anyone who doubts that we have weather war capabilities. And it's all over Twitter. And, there's so much evidence out there now in social media of these things that it's great to know that I'm not alone in declaring any of this. So the bottom line is that the military have been waiting to take back our country for the go signal. And that is actually a situation in which they could have come forward at any time. And even if they wanted to follow the Law of War Manual, Department of Defense Law of War Manual statement that said they had to stand down for 1 year after the invasion, which is insane, obviously written by a New World Order flunky and slipped into the Department of Defense laws or whatever you want to call that are supposed to be abiding by the Geneva Convention, then no country in their right mind would sit around and wait for a year to be invaded. This is just insane. And so that's actually one of my biggest issues with the White Hats and what's going on. But they decided they wanted to teach the people a lesson, and therefore they let the dark side have their way. And this is probably advice they're getting from an AI and a certain number of the generals. I can imagine there's a number of generals that don't agree with that whole principle, as you can imagine, right? But that's where we're at. And so I just want to say that these weapons of war have been now unleashed against the American people. As I say, they've been doing this for years on and off. Of course, Lahaina, of course, Paradise, California, and the fires in Northern and Southern California. I was in the Southern California fires, and as well as Ohio, the whole spill there, and train derailment, et cetera. And then we're also looking at this situation with North Carolina, of course, which is absolutely horrendous. And then we have a coming thing with Tampa. So when you're looking at this as an American, you have to realize that at some point, someone has to spur the military to action. And the Biden administration is a CCP invader-run government. It's been that way for 4 years. And if you didn't know that, then you haven't been paying attention. And I suggest you educate yourself as soon as possible. You can educate yourself by reading my Substack, many other people's Substacks, as well as looking into the work of George Webb, a very good journalist out there, Robert Morningstar, another excellent journalist, and there are others, okay? And then, of course, the broadcasters, my colleagues, and all of the broadcasts that have been done by Juan O'Savin, aka JFK Jr., and so on. So what we're looking at is supposedly, according to Juan, if he's not going to backtrack and back off everything he's ever said for the last 4 years or more, the military is the only way, that there was a military ceremony that basically brought Trump back and said right after the so-called inauguration or funeral of Biden, which was actually what the inauguration of Biden was, according to Derek Johnston and according to the military codes that were displayed on the screen and for everyone to see. So I don't think you can argue with that. And we do know that the real Biden died right then, right around that time. And they put in place, there were 4 actors over the last 4 years at least who have played Biden. Kamala apparently is just either she's a clone, actually a man in disguise as a woman, or she's basically a puppet, no matter how you dress her up. So that's worth knowing as well. And she's actually kind of a diabolical witch as well. Now, we know we're invaded. So these are the basics, right? So just to understand what's going on right now, you're never going to understand it if you don't know this history. And this is relatively recent history, like in the last 8 years, let's say, since 2016, when Trump came into power, having had to steal the election back from Hillary, who had stolen it. And that is something that I had a whistleblower on, Rick Davis, and they killed him. He was a Navy officer. He was involved in that and came and reported that to me as well as to a few others on the scene. It didn't get around a lot, but I reported on it and so on. So now the question is, if you're going to stand and fight or you're going to wait for Godot. So waiting for Godot, let me say, is I have a definition for waiting for Godot down here somewhere. It's one of the numbers I'm going to go through. So I'm going to go through these. I know this maybe for people that just can read an article and just get everything they need from reading, then I encourage you to do so. But if it helps to have a person talk to you, because so many people really like videos nowadays, then hopefully this will be helpful. So what do you want to do is, even if you're the White Hats or you're any other organization, you basically want to ask yourself, how do you know if you're serving the dark rather than the light? So this is a primary question. And the first thing you want to know is when you know about a weather war attack on an American city and do nothing to stop it, you are working for the dark. When you see the New World Order plans, dates, and methods and do not warn the people, you are working for the dark. When you tell people to get out of the way when they have nowhere to go and try to make it look like they are the problem, they're not acting on something intelligently, then that you're working for the dark side. When you're a commander in chief in secret and you tell the military to stand down in the face of invasion of your country, you are working for the dark side. When you have ways and means to solve voter fraud, a la blockchain, which has been proven to be able to count money accurately, could certainly count votes, then you are, and you let it continue, the fraud, and just dither around in the courts, then you are working for the dark side. And when you know exactly what's coming and where and when, and you say nothing to warn the people, you're working for the dark side. When you stand by and let your enemies destroy your country and your people because you want to teach them a lesson, which is supposed to be a big modus operandi of the White Hats, then later you're using that to get their vote, you're working for the dark side, okay? So now, then I went down this other kind of road saying the reasons why Space Force and the military that side with Trump and the White Hats are refusing to act at the moment. One, they want to live to fight another day. That's kind of like a no-brainer, but is it really true? Who knows? They are in a minority, and they don't think they can win because they don't think the majority of the people are with them. This is that 80-20 issue that supposedly, according to the last blockchain evidence, which was the 2020 election, where Trump absolutely won, supposedly by at least 80% or more, and that 20% of the people didn't vote for Trump, then that was supposed to be where we were at. Lately, Juan has actually backtracked on all of that and said, what if there's a tie, suggesting that that the people out there are split and that there is not an 80-20 in favor of Trump any longer. I'm not sure how that could be when he's still doing the rallies with an amazing amount of response out there, et cetera, et cetera. But this is what Juan has actually been saying lately. So, and there's political reasons why he would mislead the audience, okay? Sometimes he's trying to talk to the dark side. Sometimes he's trying to actually appear to be weaker than they are, type of thing. Sometimes they're trying to tone down their act so that they can get away with something later, and not appear as strong as they are, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, if they are, this is another reason why the military may be standing down. It's all a numbers game. So if their numbers don't look good by their whatever ways they're choosing to look at them, then they might consider themselves in a minority, and they can't win because they don't have the majority of the people behind them. All right. They plan to take, number 3, they plan to take back the country, but not until some fucking AI tells them to. So that's a liability as well. So if you and your generals are just focused on an AI and you think the AI is right, overriding common sense of a human, then you could be misled. Okay, then number 4, they made a backroom deal with the dark side to keep themselves alive. That's always a possibility. And of course, as far as I'm concerned, the hits on Trump or the attempted assassinations, of which there have been 2 in the public. Is it 2 or 3? I forget. But anyway, then this is going to continue, needless to say. And as far as I'm concerned, that what they're really doing is these are misses on purpose. And you have to miss on purpose because these snipers cannot be this inept and actually be real snipers. And especially the guy with the AK-47, like how hard is it to just spray the fucking area with bullets, et cetera, et cetera. So, and that was a very suspicious situation where for once the so-called patsy got away. Usually they kill them outright, so they can't testify in a trial. This guy got away. I don't remember whether they caught him again. He sounds like an operative of the deep state, so you decide. And then number 5, they basically are trying to avoid civil war so hard that they're actually causing it. And that's a very real thing. And I think that is happening. Number 6, they're conflicted. They want to play by the rules, like legalities, like this Department of Defense Law of War Manual legalities. But the dark side doesn't play by rules. They just give fuck all for the rules. And basically, they never have and never will. And the White hats are thinking they are holding off, thinking they're going to raise consciousness of the people. Okay. Now can be a lot of discussion as to whether the people are waking up at all. Okay. People have been tortured by their higher ups, by their rulers behind the scenes, unbeknownst to them, or just knowing they're tortured in general. And they think it's natural causes or God or who the fuck, devil or whatever the hell. But the bottom line is that they have been fucked with, going all the way back for centuries, ever since humans came to this planet. which is long before the Adam Eve story, which is a bunch of bull based on some facts behind the scenes having to do with genetic engineering of humanity, so on, because there's so much stupidity out there and so many people who are brainwashed by the Catholic Church, by the Vatican, by the rabbis who also lie to the people, and it just goes on. So there are religions out there completely misleading humans, of course, on every level. Okay, and so that's another thing. So number 7, they are waiting for nuclear war threats to get real so the military can legally announce Trump as the CIC and president of the republic, which has been all along, and negotiate a peace so the entire world doesn't go up in flames. Yes, and then they will thank him, and then he will get into power in sort of a nice way. But believe me, they're not going to forget about the past and the fact that all these things happened on his watch. When they said that Biden and the CCP were supposedly in charge. So there's some kind of really weird push me, pull you dichotomy going on behind the scenes between our elements of our military who are also fighting each other, and the idea that they would go to war with each other if Trump was to come forward as CIC, and if they were to reveal that Biden is dead and Kamala is a puppet, and on and on. So, but this is all going to come out anyway. So then in retrospect, you got to realize that the people are going to understand and put 2 and 2 together, and they're going to wonder why all their loved ones died in these tragedies, these attacks with weather war weapons, and that you guys that had some control of the military, even just the Space Force group, could have stopped it by intervening, and you didn't do so. So people died on your watch, and you are culpable because you had knowledge. When you have knowledge or foreknowledge of an event, and you have the ways and means to act to prevent it, and you do nothing, then you are culpable. In my, not just in my eyes, but in it, it's absolute logic to do with the world. So, okay, so then also they don't trust the people and they think they need to wait, like Waiting for Godot. And Waiting for Godot was a play by an Irish playwright, Samuel Beckett, in which 2 characters, Vladimir and Estragon, engage in a variety of discussions and encounters while awaiting for a titular Godot who never arrives. That is really where we've been at for arguably at least 4 years, and probably longer. They have, and number 9, they have become so enamored of hiding in the shadows and playing tricks on the people, even though the dark side is doing that exact same thing, that they don't want to come forward they think they can work better hidden. And that is just obviously insane, while Rome burns, while in essence, our whole country is taken down to ashes. And they think they can rebuild, and no one's going to thank them for rebuilding when their loved ones are gone and dead, or their money is gone. I mean, you have to realize that all of this whole scenario is about taking down the banks, taking down the country, sitting there and watching while it all burns. Okay. Number 10, they actually don't think the election will be stolen this time. That's just laughable. And then number 11, they are waiting for a more planned weather war attack on the homeland. So the people are at their weakest and blame the dead Biden puppet and the Kamala puppet. And then they come crawling to Trump, begging for his return, a white hat fantasy in essence, and an AI fantasy, no less. So as far as I can see, the only thing that I can do as a journalist is try to call these people to conscience, to try to galvanize them to take action beyond their so-called plan, which personally I don't think was the greatest, and see what they can salvage out of this incredible mess that the world is in, and start doing actions for the light and to the good. All right. So this is, you can spill all the P. Diddy stuff. You can spill all this stuff that I have been releasing in my work through whistleblowers for the last 20 years. You're just going to come along and do it again. And supposedly people will believe you because you have maybe more evidence, and you're some kind of authority. Talking about the white hats, military now. So then we're talking about galvanizing the white hats to action. But a friend of mine did make the point that if they do take action and they lose, we're screwed for another 1,000 years. Some people say that. I don't quite see it that way, but nonetheless, if you think about it this way, if Trump loses the election, the white hat military, are once more relegated to the shadows, at least until the country is completely taken over by UN New World Order soldiers. And there is only one last bastion of hope, which is Americans with guns, the most obvious. And yet you have to look at that, because what are guns when faced with an EMP, particle beam weapon, all of the high-tech weapons that are available to both sides, actually. And the other side doesn't need codes to operate. They can operate at their own volition, and they may be assisted by people like Putin and Xi and the Shah of Iran, in theory, to attack the people. So we basically are facing the days of Terminator, the movie, and that we will have to take down Skynet, which is also the Borg, and figure out how to do that and how to conduct a guerrilla war on the ground, and maybe get our military to side with us and protect us and take certain actions using real weapons of war, etc. This is only if Trump loses. Now, according to my dreams of the future, unless I misinterpret them, which can happen, Trump is going to win. But at the moment, it's not looking very, at least as far as I can see, very positive. And this is why I wrote this article, because I'm very concerned. And it's just that we actually have to have this thing turn around. And I believe it's like a month or so from the election. So that's October, what is this, the 7th? We're actually past them. So it's a month away or less. And we're still at this juncture, this weird quasi juncture, where no one in the White Hats is actually coming forward as a voice of authority, even what Juan suggested Trump would do at some point. So we've been waiting for this for arguably since 4 years, since 2020 election, no doubt. But even before that, going back to since he left office, and even during his so-called involvement in being president, apparently he had so much arrayed against him that his second term was going to be his big, sort of rescue operation for humanity, but it didn't happen. And so we're really in this incredible juncture here on surface Earth. And meanwhile, deals have to be made with the secret space program, which is running cities under our feet, as well as underground bases, et cetera, et cetera. And no one is talking about what's really going on with that kind of negotiation. People who are making decisions with other ETs, incoming and outgoing races, and even inner Earth races, and not including any of us in those negotiations, because humans on Earth still can't get used to the idea that we're even invaded as a people, as humanity in general, and that we've been invaded going back eons and eons. We've been genetically re-engineered umpteen times. We are a race of hybrids. There is no Adam, seed, all that nonsense. Understand, Adam was a hybrid. He was a genetically engineered hybrid to start with. So this is really where we're at. And our human vehicles are arguably go back to source, but they also come from a lot of ingenious ETs along the ways that we are, related to. So we are not alone. We've never been alone. And it's time we kind of realize that as well. So just saying, I have so much stuff on my website and everything. I do want to say that recently Roseanne Barr went on Tucker, and it was put on Twitter, and it was, I think it really went viral. And she said that these P. Diddy parties, these individuals are basically, they're drinking blood and eating human flesh. So they're cannibals and they are vampires. They really are vampires. So they're bloodthirsty. And I've even known one. So I know a little bit about this. And so I just have to say that, people have to wake the fuck up and get with this and understand. Don't be surprised when your government acts against you. FEMA is full of lies. They always have been full of lies. It's a New World Order organization, and they're not going to help you. And obviously they're not. Okay. So if the white hats are getting their way and the people are now seeing the pay dirt in front of their eyes and waking up in that way, well, great. Okay. So you're making humans suffer and die, and you think it's kind of a collateral damage type thing where it's limited and that the future will be better. Well, tell that to the people that are dying and starving and going to get freezing cold on those mountains and have no rescue efforts whatsoever, being stopped at every juncture to help each other. Even when they try to help each other, they're trying to stop them. This is actually the New World Order in process. This is our invasionary force in process. But it's time we stand up and fight these motherfuckers. We need the leadership of the military and people like Trump and Juan and others who are arguably schooled in war and war kind of operations and type to fight these guys. Okay. So not just leaving people to their own devices, etc. So, I post a lot on particular news groups, and I get the feeling that most of these people are scared to fucking death to open their own mouths. I'm sure they don't necessarily agree with me, but they don't dare try to argue with me, except some psycho woman who didn't like the fact that I sometimes use all caps when I'm trying to draw people's attention. And I've only been a journalist for over 20 years, so I think I know all about internet protocol. I even used to manage the building of internet websites a long time ago as a producer, interactive producer. So, this is how insane people are. They don't even notice the good things. They just go picking after stupid shit because they don't like you, but they're not paying attention to what really matters. So I just would encourage people out there to have a brain and to realize what matters and to stop biting on each other and fighting the way that the powers that be would love you to do, and start realizing that those of us, especially journalists, I'm a professional journalist, but there are citizen journalists who are doing a great job, and start complimenting us and protecting our freedom of speech, et cetera, et cetera. Don't be a democrat, okay, who wants to take away our free speech and wants to take away our medical rights, et cetera, et cetera. And that goes for the same thing for the Republicans who want to take away a woman's right over her own body, fuck you. And that's it. There's no two ways about it. You're going to save a child, but you're going to kill the woman. So that's your choice. That's insane. Okay. That's insanity. Like the definition of insanity. You can't choose one life over another. It doesn't make sense. So some intelligence has to come to the table on these stories and on these negotiations, etc., over life and death and sex. Okay. And the result of sex and how babies are treated and everything else on this planet, which is so insane. And there's cannibals out there, and there are child traffickers, and there's aliens picking up humans from war-torn areas all over the globe and taking them off planet, transferring them to other places. And we've even got a whistleblower on the situation. Humans in Cages is the name of the article on my Substack. So there's so much. It's coming out, okay? The truth is coming out. It is out here, but you've got to act on it. You've got to reveal your own bits of truth, your own hidden skeletons in your closet, where you have people in your family who have been guilty of this shit as well, okay? So let it all come forth. Eventually, we are going to have to know. We already are psychic precogs. We are going to know, even with or without the internet, what the truth is about who humanity is, how we've been programmed and reprogrammed, how we've been taken over by various alien races, how we've been controlled and disinfoed, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this is coming out. This is a time of truth. And if the white hats don't get with the program and start telling the truth to the people in an open way, not just Storm Rider or some obscure fucking person or person like me who they're trying to squash me. Even the white hats are trying to shut me up. It's insane, okay? Even the white hats don't want some of us telling the real truth and nothing but the truth. And I'm sick of it. So I'm Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot. And thank you very much for watching.